Good morning, friends, and welcome to another time of Wandering Toward Wonder. This is a time that we have traditionally set aside each day, each Tuesday at 10 o'clock, to think together about how we're cultivating joy or wonder or hope in our lives. My name is Will Green. I serve as the Associate Pastor and Director of Discipleship at Foundry United Methodist Church. And I'm calling in today from my own little corner of DC here in Brightwood Park. We'd love to know where you're coming in from as you're joining us this morning. And today, I'm joined by a very special guest who's going to share with us a little bit more about our Lenten Devotional this year at Foundry, my dear friend and colleague, Joanne Steller. Joanne, it's good to have you with us today.
Thanks, Will. It's fun to be here.
So thank you again for being with us. You've been working on the Lenten Devotional now for a number of years. Is that right?
Right. So the Lenten Devotional goes back, I think this is our 27th annual edition.
Wow.
And although I've been in the church that long, I haven't been involved until about 20 years ago. So I started as a writer for the devotional, as did my husband, Joe. And then 14 years ago, Joe and I were part of the founding members of the Practicing Spirituality class, which is the weekly Sunday school class for anybody who wants to come. And our class adopted the Lenten Devotional as one of our ministries. So I became active there through the class, and then became a leader of the ministry when I retired from professional work at the end of, there's Anne, at the end of 2014. So this is my sixth edition of the Lenten Devotional.
Yeah. And we're joined today by McLarty Jackson as well, who is one of our artists for the Lenten Devotional, and we were just kind of doing introductions. So it's good to have you with us this morning. Oh, can you hear us?
Can I?
Looks like Anne is out and about.
Can you hear me? I'm so sorry.
No, we're so grateful that you made the time to be with us. So tell us, was this your first year with the devotional, or what has your interaction with the Lenten Devotional at Foundry been like?
Well, I've just been a reader until now. I've always enjoyed it, but this is the first year that I've participated in getting it done.
Yeah. And we're so grateful. Your artwork has been such a blessing and is going to be a part of our entire Lenten series. So thank you.
No, thank you for allowing me to interact in this way. It meant a lot to me to do it and to see it done.
Yeah. So, y'all have very different experiences of being a part of the Lenten Devotional. Joanne, I'd love to know, 14 years is a long time. What is it about the process that's been so meaningful for your own journey of discipleship?
I'm a writer by choice. I did a lot of writing in my professional life, and so I have found the devotional becomes a way for me to sort of look inside and allow myself to express my own form of spirituality, which for most of my adult life has been pretty difficult. All the God stuff used to make me very uncomfortable. But the devotional was sort of an outlet that was both deeply moving personally, and then I had the experience of reading other people's devotionals over the years and being moved by that. And so the process of recruiting people to participate and then nurturing them through the creative workshops and through one-on-one discussions like the kind Anne and I had for the cover. It's a creative experience that is unlike anything I've done before, and I've done a fair amount of publication production and that sort of thing. So it's moving, it deepens your faith. And for me personally, I think I found God there.
That's beautiful. And Anne, this is your first year. So what was it about the Lenten Devotional And what was it about the process that you've been in over these last couple of months that's been so meaningful for you or made you want to do this work?
So I think I was asked to join because I've been sketching um, the sermons most Sundays and posting them on Facebook. So I think that was why Joanne maybe as I asked to try under the cover. But to echo what Joanne said, she is a great nurturer. So she literally took my very nervous hand um, and kind of gently ushered me through the processes. So for me, it was learning how to formalize what I've just been doing informally and kind of intuitively into a process. I didn't think it would work for me, but she showed me it did. And yeah, I love her. She's great. And she's why it happened, actually.
Well, and your artwork, I've gotten to know you over the course of these last couple of years, and your artwork has been a part of my own experience of worship. What is it about that drawing and sketching that you do each Sunday that's so meaningful for you, and where do you find God in that process?
It's just been learning how to listen. I love to draw. I love to paint, and mainly what I do are like landscapes or people or scenes. So this was different from me because this was intuitive. It's just sitting down, listening, and letting whatever is inside come out. So instead of like editing and being critical, I just be open to the process. And so
Sorry
that's
about
where
that.
I'm sorry.
No, I dropped off for a second there, and I apologize.
Oh, okay. No, I was just saying it was a way to be more intuitive and be freer with art, and that's where I've been finding God, because it's like when you listen, when you're quiet, when you stop listening to your mind saying, well, no, put this curve here and put this dot here, and that doesn't look right, and just let what emerges. It's a different voice. And that's been really exciting and powerful for me, learning to hear that voice. And it's quiet and it's non-judgmental and it's really peaceful. So that's what I've learned through the drawing process.
Yeah. That's so beautiful. Thank you for sharing. And of course, this work of listening, right, in a world that's so busy is so very hard. And I know that the devotional is that for a lot of people, right? The devotional gives people the space to intentionally carve out a moment each day just to be present to God and to be present to themselves in a way that allows that divine conversation to really take root in their lives. If you were to think about, for either one of you, what you hope that people are going to receive out of this devotional gift that you've given us, what is it you're most excited about?
Joanne, you first.
Okay. I think the first thing is discovery. When you talk about, when you first mentioned the subject of lamentation, which is the theme behind this year's Lenten Devotional reflections, the first thoughts are negative, always. It was for me. What I discovered by studying lamentation is several things. First of all, it's an ancient practice that predates Jesus, that goes back probably beyond the Psalms, before the Psalms, but expressed in the Old Testament through the Psalms, as a discipline that one can practice for getting oneself through difficult times. I mean, if you read the book of Lamentation, who could have survived all of that? Well, they did. I mean, some of them did. And those that did used lamentation as a process for getting through. I think that discovery and knowing that you can be, the point of it is to be in God's presence while you're going through this. It is a discipline that offers steps through the process and a sort of bumper pad to kind of keep you going, because it's tough stuff. This is hard work, lamentation. But what you come out with on the other side is hope. And I think that's what joined Anne and I, especially in this process, and also Meg Lavery, who's not here today. And I'm sorry about that, because Meg keeps this boat floating. I know she probably doesn't think she does, but she does. I think we all have had a year where this statement is appropriate. We heard this preached by Junius Dodson, Reverend Junius Dodson, back in July.
Yeah.
And the theme of his sermon that day pivoted on this statement: when the brokenness of humanity is on display, lament is an appropriate response. And when I first heard that, I thought, boy, that's the understatement of the century. This is something we need to learn. And, frankly, they don't teach this stuff in school. Right. For me, it was like discovering yoga, ancient practice, thousands of years old, and now has new resonance, I think, with people. So where I connected with Anne on this is on that Junius Dodson sermon, which she sketched. And the title of that, Anne, was Hope, right?
I think so.
Yeah.
I think it was.
So that's I think the big thing is the discovery of hope. Anne, do you have other thoughts?
Hope, and for me also, because in personal lamentations, I tend to get a little bit anxious. So I did the opposite of being in a loving embrace. I want to curl up into a very isolated ball and either be frantic, dig your way out of a hole, which you can't, or to just do or stuff, or just shut down. So the thought of lamenting in a loving embrace that I could trust to be there for me, and to learn to have confidence that no matter how terrible it is, and beyond the anxiety screaming in your mind, you can just exhale and relax into God, and know that God's gonna be there for you, and trust that process. That's what I'm hoping to learn further, and for people like me who maybe get a little bit anxious every now and again, I hope they can learn it as well.
Yeah. There's something so powerful about this idea of lamenting in God's embrace, right? And Joanne, I know that as we were beginning to even talk about themes for the Lenten Devotional, you and I, back in October of 2020, we talked a lot about the fact that lament is so foreign in our world today. It's something that culturally is kind of tucked away in the back of the emotional closet, so to speak. And so as you think about both your own experiences, or the experiences of people in the Lenten workshops, as you were introducing and exploring these concepts, what was that process like? And where did you see God moving in the midst of that?
Well, I had a couple of month head start on the creative workshops. And I think every time I got cold feet about going forward with this, somebody would pop up and say, we've got to learn how to confront the difficulties that we're going through and move through them, because otherwise people are just going to try to put it behind them and forget about it. Meg said that. Meg was one of the first people that said that. In my own experience, I did a whole lot of study. I found a powerful resource in a paper and video done by Dr. Elizabeth Lewis Hall of Biola University in California that was transformational for me. It taught me what it meant to lament. So I started practicing it almost like a form of meditation, and found that it was really hard to even get started for me. Like, I don't have anything to complain about. What have I got to complain about? Yeah. And then all of a sudden, something stuck. Like, oh, geez, I'm really upset about this situation. And so I walked myself through the the process of a formal lament. As I was walking in my neighborhood streets, I got so emotional, I sort of broke down and cried. And, you know, this is not a pretty picture walking through the neighborhood, stifling tears. But I had a cathartic experience along the way, which I actually write about in the devotional. I finally found the words to explain it, where I really feel like God spoke to me, and it was transformational. And I knew in that moment that it was going to be okay. It was going to be okay. And here's what I needed to do. And then further down, as I was communally lamenting the massive number of things that were going wrong in the world, with the pandemic, with racial injustice, politics, everything that was bothering me, I kept asking myself, what am I supposed to do about this? And one day in a little mini lamentation session, I heard the words, do this lamentation work. And so that's kind of what went into the creative workshops. And I can only tell you that in the first one, people had some real difficulties. It's hard to call God into something and name something that's on your mind, particularly if you're an anxious person to begin with. And I'm glad we had the safe haven of the Practicing Spirituality class, where we like to joke, what gets said in practicing spirituality stays practicing spirituality. And one person in particular who was so eloquent in the devotionals that she wrote, really discusses how learning to lament has been transformational for her. It's still not easy, but transformational in a way that it is a pathway through the difficulties that you're suffering toward healing.
Yeah. How about you, Anne?
Say the question again for me. I got so caught up in what Joanne was saying.
Yeah, absolutely. No, but as you were doing this work, like where did you find your own experience of transformation, or where did you see that transformation taking place in the lives of others?
Well, I didn't spend a lot of time. I didn't actually do the workshop with Joanne. I kind of did a parallel track, so to speak. But I can talk about it from my own life and my family. You know, it's been a really tough year, or a year just full of changes upon changes upon changes. And as Joanne said, as somebody who might be a little anxious sometimes, it's not easy to because I think we pay lip service to the whole idea of lamenting. Everybody knows you have to grieve, if I can use the word grieve. But there's a sort of time limit on it, and then you kind of have to suck it up and get on with life. That's how our society is. You just kind of get on with it. So there are just layers upon layers of things that maybe go unexplored. And sometimes you get to a place where you're stuck. Yeah. And there's so many things that you're just not even seeing the beauty, because when you just go on without opening up, you cover a part of yourself that's vulnerable. And if you don't have vulnerability, then you miss beauty sometimes, and you miss empathy. You miss some really human stuff. So for me, it was kind of a quiet backtrack into, as Joanne said, rediscovering some issues, some things, and taking the time to deal with them, so I can participate more fully in life and feelings and the things I need to be a person.
Yeah. I know early on in the process, as we were having some conversations too, we talked a lot about the reality of emotional constipation, right? And the fact that the more we kind of hold on to that emotional autonomy, that fear of vulnerability, the less we're able to integrate fully the love of God, the grace of God, the justice we're called to seek in the world into our daily lives, right?
Yeah.
So that work of lamentation is not just about release, it's about integration of the fullness of everything we've experienced in our lives into the story of God's love for us. So, I want to make sure that we leave some time to offer the various resources that you and others have helped develop to help people begin to engage this work, because you've painted a really powerful picture of the potential and possibility for the work of lament. And we've got some good stuff in the works, right? So you heard Joanne mention earlier, Dr. Elizabeth Hall, who is a professor at Biola University. She is going to be our inaugural speaker in what we're calling our Lenten lecture series on lament. You'll see some information on your screen now. She'll be joining us this Sunday at 12:30 p.m. On Zoom, and you can find that information online. We're going to drop it in the chat as well. And she's just one of 6 amazing voices that we have lined up the following week. We'll welcome Dr. Asa Lee. Some of you will know Dr. Lee from Wesley Theological Seminary, who will be speaking about lament in pursuing and building beloved community. We'll follow Dr. Lee with Dr. Denise Hopkins, who is a professor of the Psalms in particular at Wesley. And then we'll get to welcome our own Dr. Izada Autumn Mobley, who'll be speaking about the pursuit of racial justice and lament's role in that. The indomitable Stanley Thurston, our director of music ministries at Foundry, who will be speaking about lament and worship music. And then, of course, Bishop Karen Oliveto, a good friend of Foundry's, who will be coming on Palm Sunday to talk about lament and the pursuit of LGBTQ justice. So if you're looking to explore the way that lament is operationalized in some of these really important things that we do as the church, we hope you'll join us for that. There is still a way for folks to get connected to the devotional. We've put up a screen in the feed now that you can see, but if you go to the links that we're dropping in our chat, you can still download the devotional and print it at home. You can sign up for a daily email so that it's coming right to your inbox, and you can receive the full gifts of all this work that Anne and Joanne and others have been doing. We also want to lift up that this coming Saturday, there is a retreat called Leaning into Lament, where we're going to take some of what was done in those creative workshops at Foundry and help people practice those as a way to begin to step into this work of lament. Joanne and I are going to be facilitating that together. And so if you're interested in that, we encourage you to register. Registration closes on Thursday this week. And then, of course, there are Lenten worship boxes, particularly in our family ministries department, that Pastor Casey has helped to coordinate and get out to folks. And so we hope that if you haven't signed up for one of those and you have children or children in your home or in your neighborhood even, that you're in relationship with in that way, that you might receive the gift of that. But before we sign off, so that you can sign up for all those great things, I just want to ask one other question of Anne and Joanne. We're living in the middle of this pandemic. We're coming up on a year. It's been a season. How are you finding times to laugh or to be silly or to have fun these days? What are you doing to stay sane?
Well, my answer is easy. Once a week, because I've been a good grandma and kept my pod clean, I get to see 2 little kids that get me to run around and do things that I never thought I would be doing at my age. But I laugh with them, and and my garden's starting to bloom. So there you go.
There you go.
Yeah. Well, I was born silly. So I find things to laugh at pretty easily in general. And this really has also been a pretty absurd year. I mean, some really funny things have happened personally and communally and nationally. So really, if you step back from the seriousness of it sometimes, you figure somebody's going to make a comedy about this year going forward, the Zoom meetings, the mishaps, the putting on the camera when you didn't know the camera was on, and just look, it's horrible and it's tragic and it's hilarious all at once.
As I've often told folks, and we were marking worship rehearsals for Foundry, we're really glad we're not recording the rehearsals for that very reason. So, well, friends, it has been so good to be with you. Thank you to Anne and Joanne and the whole Lenten Devotional team for all the work that you've done to help us get ready for this really important season. And for all of you who've joined us today for these last couple of minutes of wandering, thank you for joining us too. We hope that you'll avail yourself of all the resources that have been developed and offered for your growth and for your opportunities to learn to lament in this Lenten season. We hope that you'll continue to join us throughout the week. We have lives by our pastors each day during the weekdays. Pastor Ginger will be with us tomorrow for Ponderings from the Purple Parlor at noon. So we hope you'll join her for that. And we want to make sure that you'll join us back next week, where we'll continue our interview series, learning a little bit more about people on the ground in our community of faith and how lament has been integrated into their own journey of discipleship. So, friends, thank you for being with us. Remember, God loves you and we love you. Be gentle with yourselves and be gentle with one another. And whatever you do, keep remembering to laugh and wandering toward wonder. Bye for now.